next point deals with the concept of Pinchas. Pinchas was a zealot, and as a zealot he sees something that is awfully wrong. He sees a Jewish rabbi, a leader, taking a young maiden, a Midianite princess, and essentially she was a prostitute, and he was consorting a prostitute in full view of the entire people. Now, why did he do that? He did that because the Midianite women had banded together by the council of the elders that they wanted to cause the people of Israel to sin. The easiest way to get them to sin would be to hold a bazaar, and at the bazaar there would be these nice little girls, and these girls would attract them to themselves and make themselves available at the cost of worshiping their idols. By the time the young men were excited, looking at the idol, and all they had to do was to do some disgusting thing in front of the idol, and that was considered its service, and they didn't think very much of it. But indeed, this was idolatry. And so a plague ensued. And Moses was told, if you want to stop the plague, go and get the perpetrators and have them executed for worshiping idolatry. Now, the tribe of the Shimonites were going to be, for the most part, they were the ones who had done this, and they were going to be executed. We're talking about 20,000, 30,000 of them. They said, we're going to be executed. They said to their leader, do something. So instead of going into the synagogue or going into pleading before Moses, he decided, you know what, there's no prohibition openly against fornication. There's no prohibition clearly stating in the Torah this is prohibited. Maimonides says that there is, but the prohibition against marrying people who are not of the faith of the Jewish people, but not a one-time stand. That's rabbinically prohibited. At that time, the rabbis had not prohibited it because nobody ever thought this could possibly happen. And this individual comes along and says, this is permitted, so what's the big deal? Why are you killing all these young people? And this was very dangerous for the morality of the people, for the unity of the people, because this was challenging the authority of God. God's saying this is a terrible thing because through this they worship idols, and the head of the Shimonites saying, no, this is perfectly normal, and we can explain why they were overwhelmed. No. This was public fornication, a public outrage of the worst kind, but there is no direct halacha in jurisprudence about this, except the law of the zealot. The law of the zealot is if you see something that's outrageous, that's desecrating God's name, you're allowed to take action to your hand and you're allowed to kill the perpetrator, including a case of somebody openly engaged in public fornication with a heathen woman that's going to lead to either idolatry or assimilation. But this is the law of the zealot only, and the zealot can do this, but puts his life in danger. This is what happened to Pinchas. The question is, what exactly is the role of the zealot? What was his zealousness all about? Well, he saw people that were sinning. God was angry. He was protecting the people from God's anger. He was trying to make amends, trying to say that we're going to go ahead and take a stand for God. And we're not like that. And that took away God's anger. Another approach is that he saw that this was something that would ultimately affect the entire and infect the entire moral structure of the people. And so he saw the ultimate result of this, and the ultimate result of it was so terrible that he had to do something about it, and it was permitted to do something about it for the long-term effect. That's the rule of the zealot. You're allowed to do something even though it's of questionable source. Nonetheless, you're allowed to do it if you see that this is going to have long-term effects. And the third approach is the approach of the soul, and that is, it is possible for a Gentile to become Jewish but only through the process of conversion according to Jewish law. Any other kind of relationship between the Jew and the Gentile either will cause the Jew to become assimilated, or a weakening of the Jewish people to the point where they will abandon their religion when the chips are down. In order to ensure that this doesn't happen, there could only be marriage with people who are not Jewish if they have accepted the tenets of Judaism and have accepted it only for that reason, not for the purpose of marriage. And so Pinchas saw this. Pinchas saw that this was an attempt to create an assimilationist society. By permitting consortium, they would also permit eventually marriage, permit marriages without conversion. And marriage without conversion is the road to assimilation and destruction of Jewish values. And he had to do something to stop it, because the Jewish people are a single people, a unified people, and can only exist within the framework of the Torah. And in fact, later on, some of the girls of the Midianites become included into the Jewish people, because apparently there was a desire to do so, but it was an impure desire. And for those who had not been tainted by that impurity, they were allowed to become part of the people. And that's part of the understanding on three different ways and three different levels as to each aspect of Torah. As I told you before, the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of formation, talking about the creation of the world, tells us that God created the world with 10 spheres, but with 3 different, totally different aspects or general lines to it, and they are space, time, and soul, olam, shana, and nefesh. God created time before space, and the soul existed before time existed. And it is the soul, the keter, that causes the creation of the mass. Or you want to go ahead and just fantasize the relationship between mass and energy is a similar relationship between soul and the morass of the world. The ultimate soul is the keter, that's the source, the transcendent source. And that is the source also of the morass of the physical world, the actual body of the world. And so, first there is soul, a wheel, and next comes time, and after that comes space. The material comes from the soul, from the keter. And so these are 3 distinct existences. Time is distinct and before space, which is distinct and before material. The material does not create space, and space does not create time. Rather, they are independent according to this formulation of the Sefer Yetzirah. And with that, I wish you all a good Shabbos.